stole a little bit of my thunder about how I got here, because I figured you guys are probably wondering, what is a truck driver, which is what I do for a living, from Byron, Illinois, end up in Ontario, Canada, 13 and a half hours away. And I'm going to tell you, I was at a place over 7 years ago, pretty dark, gray place. I was working 12 hours a day, plus to pay for all the debt that I incurred for a new house, new cars, wife, kids, all the debt. And I would come home at night, never speaking to my wife, my spouse, my kids, nothing. At that point, my kids were grown and they were out, and they were stepkids and they were out of the house by then. But I would never speak to anybody, and I'd just go. There might be some dishes in the sink that I'd have to clean, but I would hurry up and fix my dinner. Usually something in the microwave, Hot Pockets. I lived on that for a long time. And I would go into my den, lock the door, which I really didn't need to do that either because nobody was coming in anyway. But I would fire up the computer and I'd start looking. Like I had some football cards. I'd check to see how they were doing. I would check different things on the internet, and thank you.
What do you need?
And occasionally I would play some online games, like whatever. One of those games was called Farkle. It was a dice game that you could play, and it's like Yahtzee, if any of you guys have ever played Yahtzee or anything like that. It's 5 dice, and you try to get 5 of a kind, and a straight, and a flush, and all that. But I was playing it, and the neat thing about this game is you could interact. Now, it was all random people. It was all, you get online, you get on the game, and somebody pop in and want to play you. You had no idea who they were. They could be from anywhere in the world, not even from Rockford. It could be from Canada. And one night I got on and I logged on, and Lori was on, and we played, and we started this chatter and banter, and right away I looked at her profile and I seen her picture, and she was holding a Haitian baby. When I seen that, something stirred in me. I'm like, wow, that's kind of odd. You know, it's Lori and a black baby.
Really white lady with
Yeah,
black.
yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. Well, it didn't take long for Lori to start talking about faith and Jesus. And I know that if you know Lori, that's on her mind, and she does that very well. And she was relentless. And one of the questions she came up to me and was very adamant about. And I mean, and you got to realize, I'm not seeing her. I don't see her face. I don't even see her profile picture at this point. You have to go back, and then you go back to the game. So I'm just reading the text, and I could see her. I could see her in my mind, and it says, "Where are you going when you die? When you die, where do you think you're going?" I'm like, that's easy. I think I'm going to heaven. And in capital letters, big capital letters, like jumping out at you, capital letters. You think? And well, you know, I'm a good guy. I don't cuss. I don't drink. I don't. You know, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to heaven. You think? And she goes, "I know where I'm going." I said, "Where are you going?" She goes, "Well, I'm going to heaven, and I know that for sure." "Well, how?" And she told me. And I'm not sure what time it was. I know that the date was March 22nd. I know that I'll never forget that date. And I said, "How do I do this?" And she said, "You need to say the sinner's prayer. If you're ready," as Pastor Dave said, she was very adamant about this. "If you're ready to take Jesus into your life, we can do that right now." Typing, mind you. Typing this through the internet. I said the sinner's prayer. And after it was done, there was smoke coming out of my mouth. Dark, like I just smoked a cigarette, and I did not smoke. I hadn't smoked for years and years and years. And it was like this cigarette smoke. It was tar, nicotine, nasty, coming out of my mouth and my whole body. And I could feel it in every fiber of my body, all the way down to my toes, like crystal alpine air. It was just so amazingly beautiful, which at the time I'm a truck driver, macho. I was whatever. I cried like a baby, and I couldn't help it. I just sat there and cried. And since then, I cry a lot. I don't know what's that all about, but the Spirit really is moving in me. Shortly after that, my mom had a church in Byron there, and they had a candlelight vigil. And what that was, it was 3 days before Easter. And what the pastor wanted to do, was a new thing that he wanted to try out, was to have somebody sign up every hour to sit in this room in the church, light a candle, pray, get close to God prior to Easter Day. And so people signed up like from noon to 1 to 2, all the way up until that time. Well, Saturday came, and my stepfather put in till midnight. I said, well, I'll do 12 to 1. I want to do that. That's real cool. At that point, I was on fire for the Lord. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be. I would have taken a cot in the church and lived there if they would have let me. But I took from 1 to 2. Nobody else filled anything out till 7 o'clock in the morning. So all that space was empty in the sign-up sheet. And the pastor came and said, Doug, just when you're done, just go ahead and leave. You don't have to worry about locking the door or anything. It's probably a good idea to blow out the candles if you don't want to leave them unattended, but go ahead and leave. And I said, no, I ain't going to leave. I'll stay as long as I possibly can. If I pass out, then I'll get up and go. Well, I don't know what time it was, but it was late. And I'd been there a couple hours, and my sister and my father had passed away previously a long time ago, but I lit a candle for them, and I prayed about them, and I prayed with God, and I felt really, really close praying, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go in the sanctuary, because I think I can even be closer, being in the sanctuary. And the sanctuary had pews facing each other, and in the middle of it, it had a cross suspended in the air. Our church had a peak in the middle of it, and this cross would come down. Huge, and it was beautiful. Had a crown of thorns on the top of it there. And I remember walking in the sanctuary. It was dark darker than that night when we were out here. And I couldn't see nothing. I was kind of looking around, and I definitely couldn't see that cross up there, and I couldn't see anything. But I sat down in the back pew. And I sat there and I started to pray, and I started to think about things, and all of a sudden I felt a hand on my shoulder. I'm alone, and I'm like, I'm not gonna look, and a whisper in my ear, an audible whisper in my ear. Don't be afraid. It's okay. Everything's okay. You are going to be a leader of men. Well, that's crazy. I know right away this is, and I looked around, there ain't nobody there. Nobody. It's gone. I'm thinking, how are they doing this? And I look ahead, and I could see everything lit up like somebody turned all the lights on. It was bright as could be. I could see the cross hanging. I could even look in front and see the pew with the hymnals and the Bibles there. It just totally lit up. I'm like, okay, this has got to be a sign. And I closed my eyes, and I prayed, and when I opened them, it was dark again. And that was probably the second thing that's happened to me that was unbelievable. My whole life, since I was saved, since Lori brought me to the Lord, I've had certain things that happen that I know because of my nature. God has been there. God has pushed me. God has held me. He carried me. I asked my pastor, my mom's pastor, if they would baptize me at that church. And the pastor said, yeah, come back here. We'll talk about it. And went in his office and he says, okay, here's this shell that we got. And we're going to put some water in it. Not holy water, just we're going to put water in it. And we're going to sprinkle you and we're going to baptize you. I said, no, no. I said, that's okay, but I want to be baptized. I want to be baptized like Jesus was baptized. I want to be immersed. Well, we don't do that at this church. I said, well, then I'll go somewhere else. And that was fine. That was okay. My uncle's a retired pastor and from Florida, and they were in town, and they'd actually moved back to Illinois, and I asked him if he would baptize me. He said, sure, Doug, I'd be honored to baptize you. I don't have to. Anybody that's a Christian can baptize you. Anybody that's been baptized can baptize us. No, it would be my honor if you could baptize me because of our relationship. So he took me to a church in Rockford called Northeast, which is a pretty good-sized church. I think they have like, maybe 1,000 or something like that. I'm not quite sure of the numbers there, but it's a pretty good-sized church to have. At that time, they were having a service on Saturday night, and I believe 3 services on Sunday, maybe 4. And we went there Saturday night. They set it all up because the church would be open because the service was going to be, and I can invite my friends and family when I get baptized. Well, I invited a few people, and they came, and I was baptized that night. And afterwards, I went to the Saturday night service. And they had a speaker there that was the administrator of the children's church that they had there, all the youth activities and youth church. And she came up and spoke about summer serve. And what that was during the summer months that they would allow the teachers to be off for May, June, and July. Don't get any ideas. I was already told you can't do that. So they would have volunteers come in. They would ask for volunteers to teach and to help out with the Sunday school program while during those months. So I started, and they had each week written down. And I started checking off all the weeks, and my aunt was sitting next to me. She goes, no, Doug, you only have to do one. You don't have to do them all. I said, no, I'm not doing nothing. I might as well do it. And at this time, I really was on fire, and I still am. And I said, no, it's okay. And she goes, just do 3, and if you like it, then check the rest of them. She'll let you do that. And I'm thinking, if I don't do it now, somebody else is going to get this. And I wanted that opportunity. That's what my mind was thinking. And anyway, I did it, and I taught Sunday school there for the next 4 years. One of the things, she called me up after I signed up for that summer serve. She called me up, and I was driving in South Chicago, actually, which is not a really good area. And when she called, I pulled the truck off, the semi off to the side of the road. There was a parking area right there for me, and I talked to her, shut the truck off so I could talk to her, and she goes, do you mind doing 5th and 6th grade kids? And I said, no. I said, that'd be fine. I would love to do that. And I'm thinking in my mind that I'd be able to sweep, clean the chalkboard, pick up all the papers, do all the things to help the teacher out, the truck driver, the teacher. And she goes, oh, no, you will be leading the class. You'll be the teacher. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Let me explain something to you. I am not a teacher. And she goes, don't worry about it, Doug. She goes, we got curriculum, and if there's a problem, we'll plug you in some other way. All right, it's your dime, whatever, I'll do it. So I did it, and I ended up doing it for, like I said, for 4 years. And there was a day, it was around Thanksgiving time, it was right before Thanksgiving, and they asked for volunteers to fill Thanksgiving baskets for people like homeless or shut-ins or stuff like that they could give them a food basket so they could enjoy Thanksgiving if they couldn't make it with family. So I said, I'll volunteer for that. And they came down, I was teaching, and they came down and got me and said, Doug, they're doing the baskets. I said, all right. And I ran upstairs, ran into the one sanctuary where they're supposed to be having the meeting, and I look around, there's nobody but guys. I think this is kind of odd for guys to be filling Thanksgiving baskets, And come to find out, it was for a missions trip to Haiti. And they were given information, and that was their meeting. And I said, oh, I'm in the wrong place. He goes, no, you're in the right place. Sit down. okay? And that really did excite me to go to Haiti. I thought, wow, that'd be really cool. I'd ask about it, and I was hoping at some point in my life I'd be able to do that. Well, this was the point. And so they gave me information and everything like that, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. And then I see, well, it costs $1,500 to go there. Well, I don't have $1,500. There's no way I can do that. They said, don't worry about it, because God will provide. Okay, all right. And I sent out letters to people for prayer and to sponsor me. I put $500 down for the trip. And anyway, I ended up going to Haiti. And I never spent another dime, and I don't know how much money was poured into me on my behalf. They never said, I didn't care, but I never had to spend any more money. Probably didn't even have to do that. But I got to Haiti, and I realized God really spoke to me. This is where I needed to be. So I decided right then and there, I'm going to be a missionary. This is what I want to do. And it was really strong. And I got back. There was a Diane Miller from our church that ended up being a missionary in Haiti full time. And I said, if you come back into town, I want to talk to you about this, because I want to do what you're doing. And she goes, she loves Starbucks. We don't have Tim Hortons, so you have to settle.
Settle.
So went in Starbucks, and we were there for 3 hours, at least 3 hours, maybe even longer. She drilled me with questions and told me what it meant to be a missionary, what you had to endure, what you had to do, and everything. And then when it was all over, I'm thinking, all right, I'm on the path, here I go. And she goes, you're not ready. You are definitely, she goes, you may last a year, maybe not even a year, but you are definitely not ready. I was broken. I'm like, well, no, I'm sure this is what I'm supposed to do. And she goes, have you ever heard of Rock House Kids? And I'm like, I had heard of it because our church sponsors it. And it's in one of the very worst sections in Rockford. Per capita of the population, it is considered, I believe right now, that area, that 7th and Broadway area, the 4th most dangerous place in the United States. There are more shootings and killings and prostitution and drug dealing and any bad and evil thing that's happening in this area, except for one thing: Rock House Kids. And I said, Diane, that scares me. I don't know if I can go there. She goes, well, I'm going to be there Monday, and so will you. I'll meet you there. Oh, okay. So I went there Monday, and I talked to the pastor there, Pastor Dola, that started this Rock House Kids. And what it is, it's all inner city kids from 5 years to 18 years old. And this is their last stop. They've been thrown out of churches. They've been thrown out of school. They've been thrown out of everywhere you can think of. These are inner city, homeless kids. They're the bad of the bad. And I was terrified. And I walked in there, and I talked to Dola and Pastor Dola, and she said, all right, Doug, we'd love to have you here, but I got to have a year's commitment. And that sounds fair. She goes, but I didn't understand. Why do I'm volunteering. You should be appreciative of what if I gave you 5 minutes. And she said, the reason I want a year's commitment is because these kids have so many people leaving, coming and going in their lives, that they need somebody steady. And I will not have somebody coming here to feel good about themselves and not these kids.
Amen.
So I went there and I said, give me some time. And she said, I'll give you 3 weeks, and then I need a commitment. I said, okay. That was roughly 6 years ago. There was a friend that told me, Doug, if you don't feel comfortable there, if you feel that's not what God's telling you to do, you don't have to do it. There's other places that you can serve. You don't have to serve just because that was presented to you. But if God's telling you to do that, then by all means. I thought, well, I don't think God's telling me to do this. I really don't think God's telling me to do this at all. I was scared. And the second week I come in there and I said, okay, I'm going to tell Pastor Dola that I'm not going to do this and it's a fairly good sized place, and it's just organized chaos. It's just people running here, running there, doing this, doing that, and it's just like you're trying to catch up, and before you know it, the night's over. And I never got a chance to talk to Pastor Dola. Well, this went on for 3 weeks. I was going to call her during the week, and Monday would come, and Tuesday would come, and Wednesday I find myself standing in front of that door. And I knew that was God because I didn't want to be there. But God wanted me there. And another friend told me that there's a difference between gift and being gifted and
being called.
Being what?
Called.
Exactly. Being gifted and being called. And at that point I knew I wasn't gifted, but I was called to be there. And I was obedient, and I was there, and God equipped me. And I think since that I've been there 6 years, I think we're doing okay. And you can't get me out of there. I wouldn't leave that for nothing. Now I know there's going to be a time where I'll have to move on, when God calls me to move on, and I'll do that. But right now it feels in my heart that's where I need to be. So I'll be there. Another thing that happened at Sunday school, there was a conference we had that they allowed all the teachers from different churches to come to our church, and they would have different speakers and different counselors and different people speak, and they'd have a main conference, and then you could pick from different topics that you wanted to on a breakout. Like if you wanted to learn about discipline, there'd be somebody that could teach you about discipline. If you wanted special needs kids, if there's games for camps and stuff like that, they had speakers from Awana come, different things like that. And I thought, wow, that'd be neat. I'll go to that. I actually helped with it. And then on there, I seen there's kids around the world. I said, wow, that's pretty cool. Because now I'm getting kids and I'm getting around the world. That sounds like mission work to me. So I went to that, and there was a speaker, Jim Rosine. And he spoke some a kid's story. And what kid's story was is just a method of getting to kids all over the world, no matter what language they are, no matter what barriers there was, that you'd be able to preach or talk the Word of God to these people by different means. And so I said, that sounds really awesome. I want to know more. And he said, well, that's funny you should ask, because, and this was on a Saturday, I think it was. Next Friday, we're going to have a class. It's going to be our first class of Kids Story, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you can make it, I know it's short notice. I said, yeah, I'd love to be there. So I ended up going to that, and I ended up doing that, and then I taught a little bit of that, and then they said, Doug, we want you to be a teacher of Kids Story. So I took a class to be that. Now, since then, Gary Strudel, I think he's got a funny name. I think he's Canadian. No, I'm kidding.
Do you want Lori to take him?
Anyway, he's an excellent speaker and teacher, and if you listen to the story, he'd be talking to you like this, and before you know it, you're in it.
Yeah.
You're in a story you didn't even know you were in a story. You didn't even know he was telling a story, and you're in it all of a sudden. He's just an amazing guy. Well, he's been, I think, Lori, about 6 or 7 different countries this year so far as like India, Pakistan, North Korea, places that some of us can't even get into. Yeah, the Congo. And he's teaching these kids and teaching these adults Kids Story. And he's getting the word out, and it's just spreading like crazy. It's an amazing thing. I had told Lori about it, and Lori actually took a Kids Story class online again through media. Only this was with video, which I wish I could have done when I was saved. But we took a class, and I actually took it with her because there was another lady that was supposed to go, and she ended up not being able to. So we ended up taking a class, and I'll let you talk about that later if you want. But it's pretty cool. Lori being obedient back then, reaching out to me, saved me 7 years ago. Who knows how many kids I have come in contact with and talked about God. And without her being obedient, that would have never happened. And I can tell you right now, just offhand, I'm sure that I've talked to and come across no less than 500 kids, maybe 1,000, maybe even a lot more. I don't know, but I know at least that many. There's 300 alone at Rock House, and that's rotating every year. We get more and more as they move on. So Pastor Dave added me to the Hope Center website, or the blog. What is it?
Facebook group.
Facebook group. And I've been following your guys' church, and I've been following what you've done and doing, and the good and the bad and the ups and the downs. And I actually even at one point went to my pastor at my church and I said, hey, why don't we pray for this church? Why don't we pray together? And as a church, we prayed for Pastor Dave and his church. And I can see by the quality of people that are here today that you have a strong foundation. You have excellent leadership, and I can see with Dave and Pastor Dave and Lori and Tiffany that you guys are well, you guys are in awesome hands. That's all I have. Thank you. And I didn't cry.
It's kind of really cool how God does work and how God does use people. Because Doug and I, actually before we met, just on Friday, we would be on the internet, and he would say, you know, pray for this, or I'm going through that, and so I would like immediately just like send out a prayer to him. And then when we're communicating, and I'll go, oh my gosh, something just, you know, and he would send back a prayer to me and for our church and for our body and for whatever was going on. And so God has been very instrumental in using the internet. And I think that that's kind of was the whole premise of, I mean, like David said before too, that, you know, a lot of people go, oh, Facebook, they poo-poo Facebook, they poo-poo the internet and stuff. But you know, if you're using it for God's glory, he's going to show up. And he showed up big time, putting Doug and I together on that Farkle game. And who'd have thought? And it has brought him here today to be able to share his testimony with you. And I know that he had said to me before that how he even came to this place was that he was driving truck, I don't know wherever he drives it.
Rockford.
And and that he felt an overwhelming sense that God was speaking to him, that he had to get himself here to Canada to speak to our church and to our body. And that he felt like he just really had to obey that. And he didn't know how he was going to do it. He had challenges, faced obstacles. Once he had decided that, you know, he was going to obey God, and once he was going to, you know, make plans and made arrangements with David to be able to come here and the time frame and everything, the enemy just really hit him hard and in a lot of different areas. And do you want me to share? Because him and I were just talking about this last night, and I think the first thing that the enemy tried to do was attack him and his pride. As you probably all noticed, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, he's missing a tooth. And he, when he lost that tooth, he said, I can't go and stand in front of people and speak, and there's a hole in my face. And the enemy really, really attacked him. And you know, and he has conversations all the time in his truck with God, and God says, you can do this. You can just get out there and just do it. you know. And so again, Doug just being obedient. I mean, there was a lot of other obstacles surrounding that whole tooth thing. But God just, you know, has showed up and you know, and took that pride away, and just felt that, you know, God's agenda was bigger than, you know, the enemy's agenda. And so he came with no tooth. And
I actually have
we
it,
still,
but it's just not-
oh, he's got all right, well, he carries it around evidently with him.
As a reminder.
But
Feels like in my pillow,
yeah,
so I haven't been there.
yeah, tooth fairy hasn't shown up with the $2,000 to fix it. Because that's an obstacle. I mean, like for most of us, finances are obstacles, and that's not a priority. So, and I can't remember, there was something else.
My phone.
Oh, his phone died. That's, I mean, most Americans, they don't have landlines anymore. They just have cell phones, and Doug is like that. And the couple days before he was to come, his phone got cut off, and it was the error of his server, but it still cost him $140 to get that hooked up again so that he would have communications. Couldn't communicate with us to say anything or how to get here or anything like that, and it was like he had just been cut off from his world. So, but again, God showed up, and he was able to swing the $140, and that again was finances he didn't have then to be able to put into his trip here. So, but God got his phone turned back on, and then he was leaving on Thursday, and on Wednesday night he got a call from his roommate that his roommate, John, his daughter, that Doug had been ministering to, had committed suicide. And that hit him very hard, because he knew the state that she was in, the life that she had been leading, and I feel like I'm giving your testimony, but this is just things that we've been talking about, and so he was helping her. He was helping her to get out of that situation. He was encouraging her that there's more to life than just that, and then on Wednesday, the Wednesday before he was coming, he got the phone call, and then he was all up in arms whether or not he should leave Illinois, and whether or not he should be coming here even, and again, just he takes everything to God, and just believe that God had called him to come here for this time, for someone here to hear his message and his testimony, how God can use a simple truck driver, you know, and to reach so many people, and how God can use a simple country girl to reach someone, you know, like him, and to be able to change his life and to change the lives that he has touched. So he has not been able to be there for his roommate or for her family, or even just to give himself that piece of being close to that situation. And he's here with us, and we've prayed and have supported him and try to give him what we can give him here so many miles away. And so the enemy really was working overtime to try to keep him from this today, and to keep him from his testimony to share with you guys today, because there's somebody out there that is their hearts being touched. And so we're just thankful for that, and we just thank God for your obedience and for coming and sharing with us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.